Hello, welcome back to Learn Economia. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic, that is the limitations of modern economics. So we have learned a lot many things related to economics, the theoretical foundations, the various theories, the various concepts, etc. Now it's time to consider some limitations of modern economics. Let's have a look into the same. So, before moving on to the limitations of modern economics, let me first of all tell you about the meaning of modern economics. As far as modern economics is concerned, it will be a study of how entities would be making choices regarding the allocation of scarce resources. Here, when we say entities, this would involve consumers in the economy, then we do have producers in the economy, then we do have government in the economy and so on. So we do have investors. So all these are called as entities. So they would be making certain choices regarding the way to allocate their scarce resources. Because whether it is government, whether it is consumers, whether it is producers, they do have scarce resources. But what they have along with scarce resources is unlimited needs or wants. So what they have to do here is they need to go for prioritization. They will be prioritizing their needs and wants and they will be allocating their resources accordingly. So here comes the role of economics, and this is the basic important element that is being considered by economic science. So as far as economics is concerned, it does do certain analysis related to production, distribution and consumption. So the production, distribution and consumption are identified to be the basic areas of focus as far as economics is concerned. So let's consider more about the meaning of economics first. The modern economics would be incorporating various theoretical frameworks. It involves mathematical models and empirical methods. Theoretical frameworks means it deals with various theories, and these theories would be assisting us to conduct more and more recent studies. So considering the theories as just the base, you can go for new studies. Then it involves mathematical models. There have been various models that has been used by the theories, and you can also apply such models for your studies as well. Now, it uses some empirical methods. So, it is all which involves data-driven studies. So, data-driven studies would be collecting data from the field and they would be using these empirical evidences. You call it as empirical evidences for conducting and establishing their study. So, this will actually prove the validity of a particular theory. Once you go for testing the theory in a different population, you can collect data from the different population and go for testing the theory for validity. So that is again which is being used in modern economic sciences. Now, let me take you to the limitations here. Modern economics will be having a lot of limitations. The first limitation is the simplistic assumptions. So what do you mean by simplistic assumptions? Here we are using certain unrealistic assumptions. To tell you, we use the assumption of perfect competition. In most of the theories of microeconomics, most of the theories of development economics, international economics deals with the idea of perfect competition. But you have to understand that this is something which is highly unrealistic. You do not have any perfect competition in real world. What we have in real world is imperfect competition. So this imperfections in the real world is not taken into consideration as far as theory building assumptions is concerned. So what people mostly do is that, what economists mostly do is that in order to reduce the complexities, they will assume perfect competition. Now, secondly, rationality. You must have heard that most of the theories say that economic entities are rational. That is, consumers are utility maximizing agents and producers are profit maximizing agents. But what happens in reality is that this will not be possible always. You might be thinking that you want to maximize your objective function, but this might not be possible always because the real world is full of imperfection. And for the very same reason, we are dealing with asymmetric information, risk, uncertainty, and that would be causing too much of complexities and irrationalities. And economic theories does not look on to these. It will be mostly making unrealistic assumptions to get rid of the complexities and irrationality, and this is identified to be one of the demerit of the economic theories. Now, neglecting social and environmental factors. So, when we say economics, we just consider the working of price mechanism. The idea of price mechanism would be giving an economic face to everything. So we just go for the transaction, we just go for the monetary values, etc. But many actions that you do will be having some social implications, some environmental implications. For example, just take about a factory which is producing commodities. What happens when the factory produces goods? Definitely it is acting as a production because it is increasing output here, it is producing output, and definitely it would be increasing the GDP, it will be increasing the income of those people who are working as laborers in the sector, and that is something of financial side. But it do have some environmental aspects, it do have some social connections. So the environmental connection is that it might lead to pollution, and it is something which would be affecting the nature very badly, which is a bad thing. And what are the social connection? The factoring might be harming the social aspects of the people who are living in the surrounding areas. For example, it might be harming their culture, freedom, independence, etc. So these elements too are neglected as far as economic theories are concerned. Now, we do have limited scope of measurement. Why? Because mostly economic concepts are identified to be very narrow. It just focuses on the economic output. That means it just look on to the quantity rather than quality. It just look at the quantity. And what about certain subjective factors here? Some subjective factors like happiness, progress, etc. These are neglected by economic theories. So that is why you say that it has got a limited scope of measurement. So what will happen? These indicators are used by policymakers to frame policies. Even the policies would be lacking a human face. They will not be considering the subjective elements there. So which again is identified to be a problem here. Next, incomplete understanding of financial system. So what does it mean? So if you look on to the 2008 crisis, the financial crisis that happened in 2008, it was actually shaking the entire system. But as far as economic theories are concerned, in certain times it might not be able to provide a complete solution. So what happens here is that it will lead to failures. So failure to capture the entire dynamics of financial market is something which is beyond the ability of a person or a company, because we are not dealing with perfect information scenario, we are dealing with information asymmetry. Information asymmetry. So this means on one side you will be having so much of information, and on the other side you will have little information, causing an imbalance, and this is what will lead to uncertainty, and this uncertainty would result from risk. Information asymmetry will lead to risk. If you do not have much information, that will lead to risk, and that will ultimately lead to uncertainty, and this uncertainty might lead to a loss. It is not like it will lead to a loss, but it might lead to a loss. So which is again another limitation here. Then it doesn't mostly take into consideration the behavioral side of economics. Definitely now new branches called behavioral economics is evolving. This is identified to be an evolving field. Definitely there have been various economists who have focused on the field of behavioral economics. There have been many study on behavioral economics. But mostly when you look on to the basic economic theories, it doesn't look on to the emotions of people, norms of the economy. So economic theories does not take into consideration the role of these, and that makes economics theories incomplete in that sense, that these theories doesn't align with the emotions, social norms, etc. So that again is identified to be a complaint here. Ignoring behavioral economics again involve certain problems. Now, inability to predict the black swan events. So we have already done a video on the black swan effect. If you have not watched the video, you can refer to that. I'll be providing the link of that in the description box. So what happens here is that in certain cases, you won't be able to predict the black swan effect. So we are dealing with struggles to predict, or what happens if some rare occurrences happen? What happens if some unpredictable event happens? Like what happened in the form of 2008 crisis? What happened in the form of the pandemic? The COVID pandemic? So these were some unpredictable instances that happened, right? But definitely this had huge economic impacts. So it again shows the failure of economics to go for such predictions. This is again because we do not have perfect information, and that too is identified as a fault. This is actually considered to be one of the extreme cases. Now, you need to understand that economics is actually an evolving field. It requires many efforts to address the limitations that we have already considered here, and this is what the policymakers are trying to do. They are trying to come out of such limitations. So that is it for today. Hope you could understand. Thank you for watching. I request you to like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos. You can also join our free Telegram community. I'll be giving the link of the very same in the description box. That's it. Again, you can download the Learn Oikonomia app. For that also link would be provided in the description box. That's it. Thanks again.